Juan Carlos Valera, an independent labor lawyer with Amazon. We will discuss how humanism manifests in today's culture and its impact on Peru and the world. We also talk about whether globalization strengthens or weakens culture diversity, how we can protect our identities in this global context, and the importance of developing a moral philosophy in times of globalization and transnationalization. Hello, Juan. I'm pleasure to meet you.
Hi,
To
thanks,
start the
Gabriel.
interview, I like to ask. Okay, to start the interview, I like to ask you, what do you think humanism is like in our current culture, and how does it influence the world and Peru today?
Okay, humanism is contemporary culture, emphasizes the value of the human agency, rationality, empathy, and the potential for individual and collective development. This philosophical approach, which originated during the Renaissance, still resonates strongly today in both global and local contexts, including our country, Peru. So its influence in our country, what I believe, the influence in our country, states in the following points. The first one is the education and critical thinking, because humanist values emphasize education, self-improvement, and the use of reason, beside human rights is the second point, because the humanism focus on the dignity and the value of each person under any movements. The idea is the all people deserve respect, freedom, and equality, and these drive movements related to gender equality, racial justice, and LGBTQ plus rights, among other rights or movements.
I agree with you in other side. And the next, how we can protect our cultures and identity in the era of globalization.
Okay, to protect the cultures and identities in the era of globalization, it requires conscious effort by individuals, community, and governments to preserve and promote the local traditions while looking to engage fully with global influence. There are some strategies that I have read and I consider that are valid for this means that the country must invest in the cultural education in schools and universities, and also in all the local. The other one is the intercultural understanding, is that also is not all is required to also learn about other cultures, but without the knowledge of our local one. The second point is supporting indigenous and minority culture. This means that the government or private initiatives must invest in the language preservation and also in the land and cultural rights. Is required to have a strong government entity that looks for those two. The third point is fostering local arts and traditions. This means that the artistic expression at the festival and cultural events must be promoted in the local way from generation to generation, and avoid with this the disappear of those expressions. The fourth point is that technological media must be used to preserve culture with cultural media and digital documentation of what we have in our traditions in order to secure them for future generations. And also, the fifth point is that the government must have policies and legal protections regarding the protection of cultural expressions and regulate the cultural appropriation. With this, I believe that the globalization will be won't be won't generate the damage against our local culture.
Okay, and the last one, the last question is, why is it important to develop moral philosophy in the context of globalization and transnationalization?
Okay, developing a moral philosophy in the context of globalization and transnationalization is crucial because it provides a framework for addressing complex ethical challenges that arise in an interconnected world. As globalization blurs in national boundaries and creates interdependence among countries, cultures, and economies, moral philosophy helps navigate issues of justice, responsibility, and respect across diverse populations. There are some points that are essential in in this matter. The first one is address unethical dilemmas in globalized world. Because me that is a real priority for most countries, it has also created inequities between nations. So the moral philosophy is necessary to confront the ethical implications of economy disparities, such as labor exploitation in some countries or unfair trade practices, and widening the gap between rich and poor. The other one is the environmental responsibility because the climate change, deforestation, pollution are global problems that transcend national borders. In our country, we have right now all the fires that are going in the oriental part of our country. Also, the other point is the corporate responsibility because there is a traditional corporation that has vast powers and influence over global economies, labor practice, and environment. So, critically consider the social and environment impact of their action beyond profit.
Okay, Juan. Thank you. Thank you very much for the answers. Will help us broaden our perspective on the war. And thank you for your time. Until next week. Next time.
Thanks, Gabriela.
Sorry.